I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands.
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. God bless the USA.
If you're trying to take your HVAC game to the next level, then buckle your seatbelt, crank up the volume, and try not to be offended. Because you're listening to the HVAC Uncensored podcast with Gil Kelley and Kelly McKay. Now, here's Gil and Kelley.
What's up? Welcome back, bitches, to the HVAC Uncensored podcast, episode 16. Yours truly, the one and only Gil Kelley, where we always...
Let's get ready to rumble!
Bam. Anyway, as always, guys, we got a good show for you. We have a guest tonight, but before we do that, as always, let me introduce the co-host, the one and only Kelly freaking McKay. What's up, buddy?
What's going on? Doing good. It's hard to believe this is my 16th episode, because you got to understand that every episode we do, that is my first 16th episode. So that's my excuse for being shitty on other podcasts, previous podcasts, is that I'm truly only on my 16th episode. So Gil doesn't have an excuse, but that's my excuse.
Yeah, I'm always shitty, dude. I make a living out of doing shitty podcasts. I mean, apparently, surprisingly, people like it.
The thing is he's good at it.
I have perfected the shitty host podcast role, man. It's just, I don't know. It comes naturally, man. I'm a gifted shitty podcaster.
No, it's all good. I just thought about that last week, and every time we have an episode, I'm like, I don't know how many episodes Gil's done with this previous podcast, but I know for me it's still pretty damn new. So I'm still learning, still trying to not sound like a total jackass, and it seems like it's somewhat working because we're still growing and still got a lot of downloads, so it's all good.
Yeah, man. And to be honest, it all comes down to once the newness wears off and you just start to be yourself and just realize it's just you giving information with a microphone in front of you.
Yeah.
That's when it becomes natural. Because I had that little zone where it was just, the newness, wears off because, you're all excited in the beginning because it's all new and it's fun. But then after that, to be honest, I mean, it's fun, but it is a job. I mean, we put in work to make this happen. So once that wears off, it's like you gotta get in that rhythm and stuff like that. But yeah, man, it's doing good. I can't believe that. I mean, I know episode 16 is not like incredible, but it does seem like yesterday that we were just talking about doing this, and now it's episode 16. So it is pretty awesome, man. I'm definitely really excited to see where this thing goes, man, because like we've said before, to see where it is now is unbelievable. When we first started talking, I would have never thought that it would be where it is now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, we can only go up. It's just going to continue to go up. So it's all good, but I totally get it. I'm like, I still get nervous before we start recording and stuff. And I want to get to the point where I just feel where I don't feel that anymore.
It'll come. I have never really gave a shit, which may be good or bad. And I'm not saying that to be funny.
Yeah.
But one thing I've always tried to be, and people can not like me, they can say knocks, they can say about my cussing or whatever. But one thing that I pride myself on is you can meet me on the street and I'm going to be the same way as I got this microphone in front of me. And I have been the same throughout my whole podcasting career. Well, I say career like it's long, which it's not, but between this podcast and the last, if you listen to me day one, when I was with John on After Dark to now, I'm the same person. I haven't changed what I say, what I do, how I act. I'm just myself, and that's who I'm always going to be. As long as there's a microphone in front of me, I'm going to be Gil, and that's it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I feel the same way. I mean, I am myself, but which a good portion of the time I'm pretty serious, a good portion of the time. And Rick, our guest, he's my general manager. He'll tell you probably the same. I mean, yes, we like to joke and have some fun, but besides for the potty mouth on, which is my norm, I am being myself when I cuss on here. We all cuss, but on my YouTube videos, I just never did. Only once in a while, and it was just because I'm just talking about business stuff. I wasn't just shooting the shit. I'm trying to get a message across, so I could possibly help somebody. So, for whatever reason, I just didn't cuss on my YouTube videos. I still really don't. So,
and there's a time and a place, and like I said on a previous podcast, when I make actual YouTube videos, I probably won't cuss. I mean, or at least maybe not the F word. Like, I'm still going to cuss in live streams because that's different, because that's just me being myself. I'm going to be myself on podcast.
Yeah.
And plus, guys, remember, me and Kelly, we created this podcast because, and it's almost like the same image that me and John did. It's you and your buddies that you work with after work going to get a beer, and you're bullshit and you're laid back. We get there's a time and a place for things. Well, we're making that place. You know what I mean? So obviously me and Kelly aren't in our everyday, we're not talking to customers like, you want to fucking buy it or not, man?
Yeah.
So, but we've had this talk about cussing 100 times, so I'm not going to talk about that. I mean,
yeah.
Me and Kelly know what we're doing. So
at least Gil knows what he's doing, huh?
Well, hey, if not, you fake it till you make it. You act like you know what the fuck you're doing.
That's right.
but before we're gonna get into our guests. Matter of fact, let's just no holds barred. Let's just bring him in. We are gonna bring in Mr. Rick, the general manager for McKay's Heating and Cooling, or his new name for Kelley.
Yeah.
And he is gonna tell us how much of an asshole Kelley is to work for.
Fuck.
Welcome, Rick. What is up, brother?
Well, hey guys, man, I'm sitting here just getting such a kick out of listening to you two, and we can pick on Kelley, but you know what? At the end of the day, he's a pretty darn good dude. I've really enjoyed working for him. I was telling him driving in to work yesterday. I guess it's actually been 8 years to the day yesterday since I've known Kelley. And anyways, it's exciting to be with you guys tonight, and I appreciate being a part of it.
Yeah, man, we definitely love having you, and I know that, man. And I said this on the last podcast that, I mean, me and Kelley, we joke around back and forth, but I have nothing but respect for the man, dude. Obviously we became better friends after doing this, but I told everybody last week, just seeing all the work that he's put in, you have to respect that, I mean, and the fact that he gives that knowledge to other people for free. But that's the only kiss ass you're going to get tonight, Kelley.
I'll take it. I'll take it. But thank you. I appreciate that. So.
No, you're welcome. So, Rick, okay, so you've been with Kelley for 8 years, you said.
Right.
I guess we'll start off. We'll work our way up. So, how did you get into this industry?
Well, that's funny because I basically got into it when I met Kelley. I'll be honest with you. I came out of management out of aircraft in Wichita, Kansas, and did that deal for many years, and went through layoffs. And anyways, long story short, somebody, we had a mutual person that we both knew that introduced me to Kelley. And actually, I first started helping Kelley sheetrock in his shop in his garage. That's how I started meeting Kelley. And then from there, I could almost spell HVAC at that point. And anyways, I learned enough about the business to be scary. And, this is a point I'd like to make tonight too, is, in a management situation, I don't have to know every little thing about everything, that it takes to do a service call. I'll as far as, the components of it, do I know enough to be knowing what everybody's talking about? Heck yes. At this point I do, of course. But bottom line is we're managing a business. And so whatever that, anybody that's in a leadership position or a manager, bottom line is that's why you pay people to know the specifics, and you just oversee the operation. And that's something I've learned to do with Kelly. So that's basically how I got into HVAC. So, I did helped do a few installs, and Kelly found out real quick that wasn't my forte. And anyway, and he just called me one day or stopped by, I think, at my house, and asked me to help, come help him and start dissecting the business and put together. Our team meeting at that time consisted of like 4 people, but it was a good time, and we've came a long way since then.
That's awesome, man. I mean, I didn't know that being to be able to come in from a different background. And I do agree when it comes to a management role that I'll say this. I mean, has it helped me? Yes, because I actually still go out and do service, and
Sure.
stuff like that. I probably shouldn't, but I do.
Yeah.
But that's awesome to know that, just to prove to the listeners, that, I mean, there's management roles in that place that, I mean, if being a manager or management is going to be the same basic sequence of operations or whatever you want to call it from business to business. There's just different nuances you have to carry over. So that's pretty cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things that was something that was my weakness. I'm the tech. I know how to fix furnaces and air conditioners. And as we grew and started adding people, I had a really tough time. And I know there's other people out there who own their small business that can relate. People are the hardest part of the business, because I don't know if that will ever change. I hope someday it does, but for me, you get so vested in people, and you truly care about these people that are helping you and working with you, and when you get emotions involved, it makes it really difficult to manage. Well, Rick had a bunch of management experience, and he's in his position, he had to like lay people off and fire people and, give them discipline when needed. Well, I had no experience in that. So, and I was failing. So ultimately, Rick started taking, tasks away from me so I could focus more on what I knew how to do. And, eventually it got to the point where I was still, kind of the manager, but we were having trouble with one particular employee. And that night I just had enough, because I take that shit home with me, and I'd had enough. And I called Rick. I remember, I'll never forget. And I said, hey, I'll give you X amount of dollars if you'll just take over the management. And if anybody has any complaints or anything, they have to go to you first before they come to me. And then if it's big enough, by all means, you can come to me. But I just can't handle it anymore. So I pretty much fired myself and hired Rick as the general manager. And since then, like I've said in videos and stuff, I've definitely gotten better. But it's definitely something I don't enjoy. And I know Rick doesn't always enjoy it, but he's good at it. So don't be afraid. My point of my story is, don't be afraid to fire yourself from something that you're not good at, or wherever you are at in your business, because those things still have to happen. And if it's not going to be you, then you need to find somebody who will do it. And I'm very blessed that I found Rick. So
that's awesome, man. That makes perfect sense. So me and you, Rick, are kind of in the same situation. So we get stuck with doing the dirty work while they sit behind the desk and make YouTube videos. You know what I mean?
Right. Not like me though, Gil. Heck, been doing it so long, you just get callous to it, and it's just part of a day. It's just you learn how to deal with things differently after you do it for so long. So, I think there's probably a lot of people listening, to the podcast that, excuse me, were a tech at one time, and now they, decide to start an HVAC business. So hopefully, some things that you guys cover and talk about, and we talk about tonight, will help some of these guys. So.
Oh yeah, definitely, man. But I agree, and that's cool that you're good at it, because I had the same issue as Kelly. Like I'm a people person, which is why I've always been good at customer service. But I was the same thing with guys who I worked with. Man, we were always friends, and I had to know when to be able to flip flop roles and when to be able to take the feelings out of that. So somebody who can do that can be able to switch back and forth between, boss, buddy, and stuff like that. That's not an easy task or an easy trait to acquire. It's not.
No, it's not. And, I think that's where a lot of people struggle with that because, and I did at one point in my management career, years ago, is just fine. It's a fine line, there with the friendship slash boss thing. And then, what you find out if you get too close sometimes and, people try to take advantage of that in different ways. And, I eventually grew to realize that, you just got to, separate that and be careful with it. So,
yeah. And that's why you find that a lot of places, in any kind of business, people always want to bring friends and family in. And not saying that's always bad. There's a lot of successful family businesses out there, but that's where I feel like a lot of people get in trouble because then you have these relationships that you have outside of work that now if that shit goes south, now your company's going awry. So, that's why I tell people sometimes, man, it's not saying you can't do dealings with family, but you can't always hire in that friend pool and that, that family pool. Sometimes you can't be afraid to go out to the unknown and to hire somebody that you have to make a decision off of a 15-minute interview and reading what his, credentials are and being able to make a decision. And sometimes you're going to make the wrong one. You're going to hire that asshole you shouldn't have hired, but you'll get better at it. I mean, that's just the way it works.
Yeah.
We've made our fair share of. We all have. Once you've been in it for a while, you've hired the guy that said all the right things, but did not produce the way you wanted to in the company, and we've made big hiring mistakes. But I definitely know one particular guy. Well, I'm not going to go into that just in case he listens to it or something, listens to our podcast. But the thing is
fired, Billy.
We don't like it. It doesn't, Rick doesn't fuck around anymore. And so if there's somebody who's just clearly, we make a hiring mistake and he's not a fit, he's gone. Like the next day he could be gone. Or we had one guy that maybe lasted 2 days and said something to Rick first thing in the morning, and I got there and the guy walks up to me and is like, "It was a pleasure working for you, Kelly." I'm like, okay. And he walked out. And that's because Rick fired his ass. So which the guy was not a fit, and it was just a hiring mistake. We've all made them, but the thing is we try to correct it quickly when we do figure that out. So
and that's good. But to be honest, I mean, and you guys might, think differently, but to me, I think that you're going to get more wrong than you get right. But like how you guys said, you're going to need to, as long as you fix it quickly, because like we've always said, Kel, it's hard to find good people. So sometimes you're going to have to go through the process several times. And I just feel like you're going to be not necessarily wrong, but well, I mean, I guess it is wrong. The guy's going to seem good and he's not going to pan out, but it's like, okay, 1 out of 5 and one of them pans out. But if you get that one good guy, it makes those other 4 dipshits worth it because they're so hard to find.
Yeah, it's you got to just weed through the bad ones. I agree.
All right, well, let's move on. So we're all into business. I know that Rick, you had something that you wanted to speak on tonight, man. We were talking about leadership and stuff like that. Please feel free, man. The floor is yours.
Yeah. Well, no problem, man. I'll just touch on some stuff. And, you guys, chime in. But, one of the things I feel that is so critical, so many people, they get this manager title, right? Somebody taped a sign on their chest, and now they're a manager, and they don't have a fucking clue how to go about anything. And, it's kind of what we've been talking about. The thing is I guess I've learned too, just through all the training and experience or whatever, is, you got to be it's a mindset. It's not a job title. I guess that's my point, being a leader. And that's the difference is, you got to decide what kind of person in that role you're going to be. And bottom line is people won't want to follow a leader. They don't necessarily want to follow a boss or a manager. If that makes any sense at all to you guys? But that was just a point I wanted to make first thing on the podcast here too. Is seriously, it's more than a title. It's a whole lot more. I've been, like you guys know, in leadership for basically over 25 years in one form or another, and I enjoy teaching leadership. I think it's a powerful thing. You show me a successful business, a successful little league baseball team, somebody running a successful fundraiser. There's a leader at work there. But anyways, I go on about that, and that kind of leads me into people. I really believe this 100% with all my heart. Is as far as people like being following a coach. Nobody wants to follow a boss necessarily. So, and I think the transition a lot of people struggle with is once they get the title, and realize that there's a whole lot more to it, right, than just a name plaque or something. But you need to become a coach, and once you do that, you accept that and understand that, then you can be in the business of pushing up people. Because bottom line, guys, that's what we're about, right? Is we bring people in, and they're not. There's more to a person than just being an installer or technician or whatever the case is. Once people, you help them understand and believe in themselves, because people are brought up with nothing but beat on, and sometimes by their own parents. I don't mean physically, I mean mentally, saying, you can't do this. Oh, you don't need to go to college. You need to go to work or whatever that is. So we grow up, I think, with that built into a lot of us, and then breaking out of that is such a struggle. But with people, and I think if you can get people to break through that and to believe again, and just to have a vision and a dream for themselves, and help coach them in that direction, along with doing the fundamentals of what makes the company money and all that. I think that's just very important, guys. So I just wanted to share that.
No, man. Rick, I can't agree with what you said more, man. I always knew that I wanted to be a chief and not an Indian. I knew that it's something I wanted. And when I got that whole title, I was exactly what you just said. I was like, well, fuck. Now I got it. Now what do I do?
Right.
And then I realized I just started being myself, to where I realized I still had a lot to learn about business, which I've learned over time. But I wanted to try to be that guy where, like, me, since I was tech savvy, that I led by example, that to make sure that I was able to, inspire, motivate, to be able to lead people, that if I said something or was able to give something, people were able to absorb what I was saying. And at first it was hard. Now it's gotten a little bit better, and maybe some talks are better than others. But I agree totally that some people have that title and you just walk in, it's like, you need to do blah, 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 blah. And that's when the guys are just like, oh, fuck, Gil's talking again. But you have to be able to command a room. You got to be able to have that presence that people have to be able to, respect what you do. They might not like everything you do or all the orders you give, but they respect what you're doing and why you're doing it. And like we and Kelly have talked about, where it's like, it's just building a culture in your company about how things are done. And sometimes it's realizing that these people that work for you, that I know you get stuck in the business and the numbers and profits and things like that, but that they're people, that they have lives outside of work. And I think sometimes what's helped me is just getting to know these people, what they like outside of work, what their goals are, what they want in life, just little things like that have helped me personally.
Right. No, that's so important, and one thing, that I've been guilty of really up until just not too long ago, I'll be honest with you, is I've really gotten, I think this is important. Somebody walks in my office now, in my mind, I'm working on, whatever. I'm looking at the P&L report. I'm crunching the numbers, for the KPIs. But I drop everything I'm doing and give that individual, as soon as I can anyway, I might need to finish a sentence on an email or something. I'll tell them that, is to give them my total undivided attention, because that's important to people. And like you're saying, Gil, is to, know their family a little bit, know their kid's name, know their hobbies, and things that you guys, can talk about that's non-work related to build that relationship because people won't quit on, I know we talked about the friend boss thing, but people won't quit on a friend, but they will quit on a boss. And even though we had a guy quit yesterday, I guess we wasn't much of a friend. But anyway, no, I shouldn't say that, man. He's an awesome dude. But a coach is trained to look, for the good things in people. I guess that's my point, because everybody out there, that's ever been born at one time in their life, they had big dreams and they kind of get crushed down. So I just like being able to listen and let the guys know they got my total undivided attention. And, in my mind, sometimes I used to be like, oh, geez, I'll listen, but, this really doesn't affect me directly. And I was very selfish about some of that in my past. And I learned to, grow out of that and realize that everything most people say is important to them, right? Just like it is to you, Gil, or you, Kelly, right? People, I'm listening to you. So anyway, yeah.
It's one of those things where like they always know like sorry Kel, but like my door is always open. Like Kelly knows, and if you listen, Rick, like to prove to my guys that I'm just like them, like I'm honest and open with my guys. They know my past. They know that I was an ex-addict in my past and things that I've done and things that I've overcame just to show them like, hey, we're not all perfect. We all make mistakes, man. Like we've all been through stuff, and don't be afraid to come ask my advice or something like that. But the other thing that I was going to point on is like the team building things, like the parties and going out after work. I know that you guys have one. What did you guys do again, Kel?
We just went to a hockey game just last weekend, and then this Friday we're going to a haunted house, and we'll all go out to eat first before we do that. So, yeah, I wish, it's one of those things where we have a certain group of people. I'm sure it's like this in most companies. A certain group of people, no matter what and how much you want them to be there, they just won't participate in those things. They're not interested in those outside activities for whatever reason. But then you have the reason. That's not who we have these things for. We have them for the people who do participate and who do want to hang out, just so we can just hang out and not have to worry about work for a while. It's just important to do that once in a while. And so we've, as the years have gone on, we've always done something, I don't think we do it quite as often as we should sometimes. And I think we're all probably guilty of that. But bottom line is we try to make time for it, and it's always a good time every time we do. So
yeah, that stuff's always fun, man. We've had a good time. Like I've told Kelly a bunch of times, man, my owner had kind of gotten numb to that kind of stuff, man, just because he got screwed so many times. And it started to get like we were all like a bunch of robots, like he just got numb to it. And he started doing all that kind of stuff again. I think he realized, and now he saw that we started going, like he's done like charter fishing trips. I mean, and these things aren't cheap, but he's just saw the outcome of how much fun it's been and how it's brought people together. And takes like here, like Maryland crabs are huge. So we go to like these crab feasts at like a fancy restaurant around here. And it's just been great for the whole atmosphere and, building the team. We have some issues now with our team. We have some young guys training, some technical errors and stuff like that. But I still think as long as I've been here, we have one of the best teams we've had since I've been here. So that's a good thing.
And it's awesome to hear, Gil, because that's what it's like you're saying. It's about team, and back to the leadership thing. And I believe two of the worst words in the English language is mine and I. And so it sounds like the people that like yourself, Gil, and Kelly and I here at McKay's and Service HQ. It's about team. Everything's always about team. We're talking about us. We're talking about ours. And we try to leave those words out of our vocabulary, and people want to be a part of that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I guess kind of switching segments or topics here for a little bit. I guess I have a question. Me and Kelly have talked about so many different things in 16 episodes. It's hard to keep track, but I guess I know you're not really like a technical guy per se, but what is it about? And I guess this is really good to get your opinion since you don't have necessarily our trade as a background. Okay, what are some of the little things about our trade, like the everyday thing that you find the most annoying? That if you could change these things, what would they be?
That's a good question.
Oh man, that's a good question. I wish I had that crystal ball to really answer that probably the way I need to be answering it. But I think one of the things that we have really put emphasis on is and this may be way off base with an answer what you were thinking, but is processes. One thing I found out real quick coming from bigger corporations and things like that, there's processes for everything. You know what I mean? And then when you come, to the HVAC world, at least my exposure, is, limited, of course, in 8 years and just with one company. But that was one thing went to work on immediately and continue to is get everybody on the same page, doing everything the same way, and then have enough processes in place that things go on with or without, just like the gentleman that quit yesterday, as a good example. We got enough processes in place that somebody can step in and know how the business is ran, how to, what's the process of turning in a service invoice, for example, as simple as that may sound, and from front to end. What does that look like? And I don't know, that to me, that was one of the first things that come to mind, Gil, I guess, is just, focusing on processes, because let's face it, not just HVAC companies, but most small businesses just, they don't. It's all, what do they call, tribal knowledge, I guess. Oh, we've always done it this
Yeah, no,
way,
no,
But it's not recorded anywhere. So that way, if if that person steps away or is no longer with the company, that somebody can just step right in and take over that role. So absolutely. That's,
no, and Rick, I love what you just said, because Kelly knows I'm all about processes. Like I've done one for like PMs, and I thought it was so minor. When I made this sheet, I was like, "Oh, it's retarded,"
yeah,
but it has helped so much. Something so dumb has had paid dividends, and like now people like, "Hey, can you send that to me?" I'm like,
right.
"Sure." It's nothing fancy. I'm like, I made this in like 20 minutes, thinking it was kind of dumb, but it serves its purpose, though.
I don't know on anything else. I mean, like I said, that's probably the first thing that comes to mind. And I have so much respect for anybody in the service business, in particular HVAC. I'm partial to, of course, but just the one thing that amazes me is the multiple. What I want to say, task and knowledge that the guys in the field got to have. I mean, they got to be a little electrician, they got to be a little plumber, right? A little bit of everything. And whereas you look at those trades on their own, none of them really know HVAC, right, at all. And that was another thing that got my attention real quick, and the respect was that. So being, multi-talented, I guess, was a big one. So very
Yeah,
respectful
no,
of you
man,
guys.
this is definitely a good trade to be in. I mean, we've talked about some of the things with this that makes our trade stand out. And I mean, I didn't really have a choice. Kelly knows my dad did this, so I kind of really didn't know what else to do. I just kind of ended up, but I'm thankful as I got older to be able to appreciate it. But
sure.
yeah, now I love what I do. I've made it. If I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it right. That's things that were instilled in me, that I want to do something, and then I want to be that guy that says, yeah, I did this job, man. Look at it. You know what I mean? Just having pride, which people should have no matter what.
That's how I am. I mean, every job, I'm really picky. So it's, not everybody's wired that way. I've come to realize, and that's a hard realization to come to, is that not everybody, has quite the integrity that you have, or I should say, is quite as anal as you. Because I'm anal with my jobs. I want them to be, very nice looking. I want things a certain way, and that's a hard thing was a hard thing to swallow as I've learned more and more about people, because the bottom line is just not everybody's wired like you are.
No, you're good. And it's just like my dad always taught me. I mean, you either give 100% or don't fucking do it. It's just, and it mind boggles me that some people think that 50% is okay. Well, the job got done. I mean, the people's new system, it's running. Okay, but it looks like shit. The people just
Yeah.
paid fucking 13 grand for a high-end system. We're charging them a premium price, and you're going there doing mediocre work. Like, that's not okay. Like, what the fuck, you know? And the fact that some people think like, oh, well, we got it done. Well, just getting it done is not. That's not
Yeah.
okay to me. It's just, I find it. I don't know. I find that crazy. And then, you know, just the way. I don't know. I guess how some people have excuses for it, and like, you know,
Sure.
it just that stuff just gets to me. I guess I'm thinking about that because I had that issue today. So I don't want to go in. I don't want to go in too deep because then I might start fucking ranting too long.
I think that's an ongoing issue that, I mean, we have it too. We have it. I mean, probably once a week. It's and it's not. I don't know what it is. It's just maybe lack of experience, but in my mind, it's lack of. I don't know how else to say it, but maybe lack of caring sometimes. I think sometimes at the end of the day, when we're trying to wrap things up just because we're in a rush to get home because we have plans for the night or something, things get missed, and that's never a good thing. So it doesn't do anybody any including yourself any favors to rush through anything, you know, when it comes to your jobs. The bottom line is, if when we slow down, we have less callbacks. And that's even on new installations, a lot less callbacks on new installations if we just slow down. And you know, we talk about processes. We have a quality checklist that we use, and as long as that thing's followed, and not just the tech's not just going through and checking them off, then everything's covered. And everything's, you know, we seal around the hole in the line set. We seal around the floor in the closet where the drain line goes through, or the refrigerant lines go through, or you know, it just makes for the total job to look very nice when you're finished, as long as you cover those things. But when you get in a hurry, it's easy to miss little things, and it then makes the job look like shit. So, but we've all, you know, there's been times like what you were saying, Gil, where you're like, oh man, we just have the best crew right now. And I got to honestly say that no matter what, we're even losing a guy in a couple weeks. I still feel that way. I still feel like we've got just a great group of guys. And I'm sure Rick feels the same way. Like, we are capable of so much. And as far as the leadership position goes, it's our job as leaders to help them see their potential and help them get, you know, actually reach that potential. So, you know, I think the main job as a leader is to try to give everybody the tools, and that may be mindset tools, books, training, whatever you can give them to help them along their journey to get to their destination and be great.
Well, you know my story, Kelly. I told you if somebody didn't do that, if my owner didn't do that with me, then I might not be here talking to you today. You know, he saw something in me that I didn't see in myself, and I could never ever, you know, repay him for that, because he saw what I was capable of and sent me to classes. I mean, when I was a piece of shit, you know, he was sending me to Texas, you know, paying thousands of dollars for me to go to class because he knew in the long run it was going to pay off. And like I said, I thank God that he did, because it turned me into who I am today. So that's a prime example. I couldn't agree more.
I'll tell a quick story real quick, and Rick, you can talk about it too once I finish here real quick. But we had a couple years ago, something happened, and we were supposed to get a price to a guy for a furnace, and we were just slammed and just busy as shit. And so he called, and he was upset with us when he was a longtime customer. And so we were like, oh, we're going to jump right on that for you, and we'll get it done Saturday. And we don't normally schedule things on Saturday, but we needed to take care of this as quickly as possible because the ball had been dropped. And so I first thing I do is I'm like, hey, who's going to work with me? Who's going to help me put this furnace in Saturday? And I'm looking for help. And I got a couple of guys to help me, but I went home that night. I think maybe this was later in the afternoon, and I'm heading home, and I I get a text from Rick, and he's like, "You keep talking about wanting to get out of the field. What the hell are you doing? Volunteering to go do this job." And that was an eye opener for me. At that point, I said, you know what? We have plenty of people to do the work. We might have to schedule a few less calls a day or whatever the case, but I wanted out of the field, and he helped me through the mental shift to get me out of the field. And sometimes it just helps. Sometimes it just helps having some support with that, because when you're a technician, which is what I am at heart, you always do whatever you got to do. It's like whatever it takes. But having Rick help me get out of the field. So I would probably be fucking dead right now and had a heart attack from all the stress I was putting on myself if I wouldn't have gotten out of the field, because it was that bad. So I'm sure you have your version of that story too, Rick.
Oh, well, no, yeah, yeah, I do. And I think that's an awesome topic right there, because I know there's so many techs out there that have gone out and started a business and just struggle with putting themselves in a position to let go and have faith in your team. That's why you pay these guys. And are they going to, like you guys were talking earlier, are they going to do it exactly like you? Probably not. Are they going to do it, hopefully, not only efficiently, but with the quality, in mind and all that? Your good ones are. And, I think that's just a huge thing. And I know it was a struggle for Kelly. And it, at one point in my life, it was a struggle for me, even, when I first even got into a management role. I came out of basically tooling engineering background, and I was one of those guys on the bench. And so my first instinct when I got at management was to go out there and tell them exactly, step at a time, how I wanted a job done. And it took me a while to realize those guys have been doing this for a long time. They know what they're doing. Just because it's not exactly like me, that's okay. So yeah, that's a big one, and that's a big
well,
one.
Kelly knows that, and Kelly has actually helped me with this. Is when like I was so used to going to certain customers and they always wanted me, and it was hard for me to send somebody else because I felt obligated. And I've gotten so much better at that after me and Kelly talking about different things, is having confidence to be able to send somebody else there, knowing that this guy is they're going to like him as much as they're going to like me, and part of that is, yes, you're questioning whether that guy's going to do as good a job as me. And then part of you is like, I don't know how to say it, is also kind of hurt, because it's like, well, I liked going out there. I liked the fact that this customer loved me so much. And you know what I mean? But it's not going to change. I mean, you still talk to that customer and stuff like that, but it's good to be able to pass that role on to somebody, because I've always been hard, and I know eventually there's going to have to be that shift where I'm not going to be in the field anymore. I can honestly say it's going to be a little while. I don't know if I could do it quite yet, but I do know at some point I'm going to have to make that shift. Whether I like it or not, it's going to have to happen.
When it comes to your coworkers going to existing customers that always ask for you, it is a shot to your ego the next time they call and they're asking for Bob instead of you. I mean, it's a shot to your ego, because you're like, this customer's been with me for years and they've only wanted me, and now they want Bob because I sent Bob last time. But you know what? That's okay. I mean, I'm just you just have to look at it from a different perspective and say, hey, I'm very grateful that they're happy with Bob, because they're still being taken care of. They know that if they have any deeper issues or concerns, that they can still get a hold of you. They can call you so they can express themselves and let them know let you know how they feel. So the bottom line is just do it, just let go. But it is a tough thing. I get it. And yes, Gil, you're gonna have to keep doing. I mean, start taking baby steps away from it, because the bottom line is, like Rick said, these guys are, they're being paid to do their job, and your job is way more than just doing the service calls. You're managing a lot more, so you don't you've got to let go too. Basically, is what I'm trying to say. You've got to start taking baby steps out of it, and get more and more used to the management position. And there's so much that you could be doing even right now, Gil. I guarantee for your company that, and that if you could just make yourself step away and say, look, you guys, you have the resources. You're going to have to figure it out without you going and rescuing them every time something comes up. Because I know that's what you do.
No, I mean, no, you're 100% right. I'm not even gonna deny that it is, and I do need to, because and a lot of that workload needs to be taken off my owner. I mean,
yes,
yes. He's put in his time. He's busted his ass. He's built this company off. Like, my owner is in Mexico right now, and I'm happy. He deserves it. He should be there. I don't want him. We've had to have a few phone calls to him, which sucks. I want him to be able to be on vacation, enjoy his vacation, and know that, this place is going to be here fine when he gets back. And it's just, I do need to do that. But like when you said at first, when I did that sending guys, and I've gotten better at it, but I used to be like, well, when I talk to the customer, like, well, fuck Bob, you know what I mean? I'm an HVAC god. Bob's not as good as me. I'm going to come out and check his work, not to that extent, but it was definitely hard. And I give that to you guys, and I give that to you, Rick, because I know when Kelley went on vacation, and I try not to bother Kelley on vacation, but the few times I talked to him, Kelley had not a worry in the world about the business because he knew that you had it under control. And that's awesome. That's got to be awesome feeling for him and for you.
Yeah, it is. I get what you're saying though, Gil, is every time, fortunately, Kelley's been able to take some time away. Like you was talking about, you're the owner, with you, and they deserve it. Kelley deserves it. And boy, it is stressful. Because I'm like you, man, I don't want to have to make any phone calls to my boss, right? I want him to have the confidence that it is under control. And, it's tough, to you take a lot of pride in it, obviously, Gil, and that's awesome, man. That's why you're a leader, and what's making you so awesome is because you're stepping up to those kind of things.
I appreciate awesome. That, man. I do. Man, this is fun, man. We're getting on an hour. This just went by fast, but before we get too far, we have a question for tonight. I don't have the Q&A with Kelley in the soundboard because I took it out. So here's Q&A. Yeah, here's Q&A with Gil and Kelley. Okay, so here's the question. So all right, guys, we have first of all, if you guys ever have questions, like I've only said 100 fucking times, you can put it in the Facebook group. If you're not in Facebook, you can email me and Kelley at hvacuncensored@gmail.com. We're more than happy to answer your questions the best that we can. So we got one today from a Mr. Daniel Thacker. Thank you, Daniel. We appreciate you submitting your question, brother. So we are going to answer your question, the best we can. So here goes. I've been listening to some of your podcasts, so not sure if you've answered this or not, but I've been in the HVAC / installation for almost 4 years, and I work for a small company. Pretty much learned everything. Even though I went to school, I've learned way more hands-on. I feel loyal to the company, and I feel they have invested a lot in me. I know I want to make more money, so the question is, how do I know when to move on or when to stay with my current company? I keep hearing about growth in the company since day one, but I have not seen it. I want to grow as a tech knowledge-wise and pay-wise, but I feel without the company growing, I will not grow since I've been there. Almost 7 techs, 2 secretaries, and 2 sales guys have left, all for different reasons, but I have stayed loyal through the slow seasons, the lack of pay. Even though I just got a raise, I feel it wasn't enough. Sorry for the long response, but basically the question is, should I stay or should I go? Should I stay or should I go? Sorry, I got to do that every time I read it. Maybe you can't answer. Maybe you can't answer for me, but some advice would be great. So that's a great question, Daniel. I mean, if one of you guys want to start off, man, feel free.
Okay. So it's hard to say because he didn't really tell like where he's at in pay and how much more is he going to get. If how much more does he think he's going to get if he goes somewhere else? If it's a couple bucks, sometimes a couple bucks is just not worth it. Depends on how much he truly loves where he's at. And, is it something that he dreads and it actually takes energy from him to come to work every day? Or does it empower him and make him feel, ready to take on the day every day? It just, your environment is a big portion of that I think a lot of times, and I know Rick will agree with me, that it gets overlooked when it comes to just pay. Now, I understand we all want more money. So one thing that I will tell you, and I just read this in a Ruth King, I think's her name. She's like a consultant and she does classes and all kinds of stuff. But I got an email from her today because I'm on her mailing list. And she says that for one, consider, you are making way more. A $20 an hour guy costs the company about 50 to 55 bucks an hour. Once you figure if he's driving a vehicle, he gets a cell phone, a tablet, he's got his uniforms paid for, he's got maybe bonuses, he's got the FICA, all this, everything that goes into just employing somebody, like your loaded labor. It definitely costs way more than just the $20. So but that goes back to if the company's tracking his numbers or not. I think if the company's tracking his numbers and he's consistently producing and his KPIs look good, like how much he's bringing in versus what he's paid, then I think that there's definitely room for him to make more money. So, maybe that's just a conversation. One thing that I that I do think is that you should have that conversation before you just start shopping for something else. But consider those things. Consider how much you're actually making, and if they've been talking about growth but it's not happening, maybe they just haven't put the pieces together yet. So what can you do to help them grow? What could you do to produce more? How could you be better at sales? How could you what's some tasks that, like Gil and I have talked about, there's probably some tasks that you could take away from your boss right now that's going to help him out tremendously, that's worth money. So there's got to be a way for, if you truly like the company and you want to stay with the company, there's got to be a way that you could make a little bit more money, or but just consider those things, I would say.
Yeah, I'll just say this too, just real quick, guys. I interject that, hopefully he does have a, obviously it sounds like he's, fairly happy, just based on what the message he sent in there. But, making sure too that he got a clear path, understanding, where he can go on a pay scale, and if he's not, if he does know, and they got different levels of however they're structured, with their job descriptions and so on. And like Kelly's saying, talk back to the leadership thing. You step up now and be a leader. Take on doing some of those things Kelly's talking about, and show the boss that you're worthy. You're loyal, and if things are right within the company, then it'll pay off. So. And there again, there's a lot of unknowns we don't know about, just hearing the statement. But, that's my thought anyway, is, just understanding where you're at, where you can go, and making sure, if you don't know, like Kelly said, sit down and have that discussion, and, have a better understanding maybe. I don't know.
Well, I agree with both of you when you say, first and foremost, you need to sit down and talk to your boss, find out, because you might have a lot of perceptions on what's not happening, but maybe you don't know the details of what's going on. Maybe they have a bigger plan that hasn't happened yet, or it's a slow growth. So you need to talk and get those questions out. The other thing is, and I'm not saying this being a dick, but every tech has it, is you need to realize what you want to be paid and what you should be paid. And sometimes they're always going to be different. So you might think you're worth, $30 an hour when you're really only a $16 an hour tech. So really have that true heart to heart. The other thing is, I always tell guys when they say they want more money, I do not, I mean, not saying I don't give them, but I don't believe in necessarily cost of living raises. Okay, a year has passed and now I have to give you more money. Okay, what do you do different now than you did last year? Okay, what makes you more valuable? What makes you worth another $2 an hour? Okay, so if you're not doing anything yourself, that it's kind of hard to be like, well, I need more money just because I come to work every day, I've been loyal, and I do my calls. And trust me, those are all great traits. They're awesome that you have that. So I'm just trying to be devil's advocate here. Make sure you're constantly bringing your learning up on your own, not just on work time, that you go home and you're trying to invest in yourself. You're trying to be better at what you do. Not saying maybe you can make a few calls just to test the waters. Don't do anything efficiently. And maybe that'll kind of get you. Maybe these people are going to offer you not even close to what you're making now. Maybe they offer you double. But like Kelly said, you got to think of the whole thing. Are you happy going to work every day? Do you like what you do? The people you work with? Because you might find another place that's offering you $4 more an hour, but
that's what I was going to say.
It's a bunch of assholes you're working with. There's a bunch of other bullshit you got to deal with. Yeah, you got to take all of these things into effect, man. And sometimes you do have to hop to find that company that fits you to be able to, hey, this is the company for me. So definitely don't be afraid of change, but it has to be a calculated risk that you have to try to simulate all the variables before you make that move. And sometimes you can't. And actually go back to mine and Kelly's podcast is The Grass Is Not As Always Greener. And me and Kelly talk about this subject very in depth, but that will be my guess, man, is like, Kelly and Rick just said, go talk to your owner, tell them how you're feeling. Maybe this will be after that talk, you'll leave that and be like, I'm good, man. You know what I mean?
I just feel like, it's like you've heard the Acres of Diamonds story where there's diamonds, right there in your backyard, but yet you go to other companies, you go, whatever the case, you go searching for these diamonds when they're actually right here. If you just, it all boils down to how bad you want it. Because if you're of the mentality that you just deserve it and you haven't done shit to actually earn it, then that's only going to get you so far. But there's all kinds of things you could do to earn more money. Go sign up, 6 new accounts. Then go talk to your boss and say, hey, what now? It's Charlie Greer on his Tech Daddy, his video training. He's like, he says something like, when you're asking for a raise, he's like, I want a piece of the pie, and you know what, if you go out and you on your own time or during work hours on the way in between calls and you're stopping and you're checking in with people at businesses and you're trying to, you're connecting, networking, trying to gain more clients for your company, I guarantee it's going to pay huge dividends. But nobody does the extra things like that. Like, I hate to say nobody, but in my experience, I just don't see it. And it's unfortunate because you can get you just have to go get it. It's how bad do you want it?
Yeah, nope. I agree, man.
I don't know how else to say it.
No, yeah. I agree. You definitely have to do soul searching and make sure that before you go and you want to beat on the desk, I want this, I want that. Make sure you do that soul searching to make sure that you've literally, and be honest with yourself, that you're doing everything that you can do and some. And if that answer is no, make sure you fix those things, or at least, a plan to fix those things before you go. That way, at least when you talk to your owner, you'd be like, hey, I just want to know, hey, what's the future plans of the company? You know what I mean? Like, I want to grow with the company. I love working here. I know that I need to get better at, A, B, C, D, and I want to do that. I want to grow. I want to know if there's room here. Am I able to grow with the company? Blah, blah, blah. Don't be afraid to ask those questions. If they say no, and hey, okay, then maybe this isn't the place for me. You know what I mean? Don't be afraid to ask those hard questions. You're not going to get answers by beating around the fucking bush. That's just, I hate to say that. You're not. don't be afraid to ask those straightforward questions. And
Absolutely.
that's how you're going to get straightforward answers.
Have that conversation. I think that's great advice. What do you think, Rick?
Yeah, man, you guys are right on. That's just the way it is. Is talk, sit down, have a talk, and see what's real and what's not, and go make your decisions from there.
Yeah, me and Kelly are pretty good at this. We're professionals. It's hard. The shit just comes so natural.
Right.
But all right, guys, man, we are getting on that time limit. Before we start to close this out, Skel, first and foremost, Rick, I want to say thank you so much for coming on, man. It was awesome to finally meet you, brother. I've heard so much about you, and please know that you are always welcome to come on here again.
Well, it's awesome, man. I'm so privileged to be a part of it, guys. I'm happy you guys got this going on, and I've been listening to some of them, and like I said, I was looking forward to maybe coming on again sometime. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Rick. It's been fun, and I appreciate you a whole lot. And I know I probably don't tell you enough, but I truly do. And I'm glad you're a part of this. And I know that I just feel like someday when it's time to exit, like I could just see. I think that we'll be exiting together. You know what I mean? I mean, I hope so. So, and
I do too, Kelly.
I hope that we can make it happen and someday and have a great exit. So,
right. I hear you, buddy.
Well, I'm going to wait until you guys get the business really built up, and then I'm going to move to Wichita. But I want you guys to do the hard work first, and then I'm just going to come hop on as a partner. You know what I mean? But no, man, that's awesome, man. That's cool that you guys have that kind of relationship and things like that. That's definitely cool. And one real thing, guys, before we close this thing out, and I know that this is like an owner and two managers talking and stuff like that, but guys, just know that the things that we talked about are just implementing in yourself, whether you're a service technician, an installation guy. It doesn't mean that you have to be a business owner or a manager. These are just talking about things that you need to do in your everyday life and the way you handle yourself at work and stuff like that. So please don't listen to this and be like, oh, this is about, I'm not a manager. It doesn't matter. It affects everyone.
And the bottom line is as you advance, no matter where you advance, it's going to require some leadership, period. If you ever plan on advancing. So always, like we've said in the past, invest 5 to 10% of your pay every year into yourself, getting more education, and don't skip the things. Don't just learn about the in-depths, don't just go to HVAC classes and get into other things like leadership and management and team group management, stuff like that. Like, just look for different ways, different classes to up your education, because it will serve you in the future, I promise.
Yeah, there's sales classes, or management classes I've taken that have helped me in my everyday life with managing my kids, managing my life, coaching little league sports. I've learned things and elements in those classes that I've taken and I've brought into my everyday life that have helped me, not even just with work. So that just goes to say what Kelly was just saying. Real fast before I forget, if you didn't know, Rick, Kelly's going to pay you. Make sure you're on the clock while you're doing this. So. Oh, sorry.
No comment.
Out of the bag. But all right, Kel. Again, thanks again, Rick, and go ahead and start to close this out there, Kel.
All right, this has sure been a fun episode. But one thing that I do want to say, guys, is go get Weldon Long's Selling Consistency, I think's the name of his new book. Go get that book. I paid $2,500 and had to drive to Colorado Springs to learn this sales process. And if you work the process works. And so he gives it all to you in this book. And it's great so far. I'm 2/3 of the way through it, if not 3/4 of the way through it. And there's a lot of great lessons in there. And do yourself a favor. Go get that book. And other than that, I'm thankful to have Rick on here, and thankful to be on episode number 16 with my buddy Gil here, and it's just been great. So thank you everybody for listening and your support. That's why we are the fastest HVAC podcast, fastest growing podcast around, and it's because of you. So thanks so much, guys. Go make money.
Yes, man. I feel the same, man. It's been awesome doing this with you, bro, and it's been a good time, man. I have fun doing this. Once again, we want to give a big round of applause for Rick, man. We definitely thank you for coming. Yeah, woohoo! Show me your tits. I mean, sorry, nice way to go. But yeah, guys, as you always know, man, we always thank you guys. Thank you so much, man. We would be nothing without you guys. Our listeners are awesome, man. We appreciate each and every one of you guys. Remember, podcast is always on all the major platforms: iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, Spotify, and SoundCloud. Always go download the podcast, man. It's also on YouTube. We're going to redo our merch, stuff like that. So I think it's still available to go to Teespring. And once again, we thank everybody who's already purchased stuff. We have a new platform we're going to drop. We're going to hold that close to the vest just because we just don't want it being out there until we do it. Other than that, man, this has been an awesome episode. It was great to meet Rick. Other than that, man, I can't wait to talk to you guys next week. So as always what I say, always make it home safe. You want to make it home the same way that you left. Always set yourself apart, guys. Always be different. Do the little things the next guy's not doing. So until next week, I will talk at you fuckers later. Peace.
Peace.
Thanks for listening to the HVAC Uncensored podcast. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook and Instagram, or email us anytime at hvacuncensored@gmail.com. Now, get back to work. Shut this down. The views and opinions shared on the HVAC Uncensored podcast may not necessarily be the views and opinions of our sponsors or guests.